The lights in the great hall were too bright. They hurt her eyes, but Park did not look away. She stood in the center of the room, surrounded by aliens from 12 different worlds. They sat in tall chairs arranged in a circle around her, looking down at her small human form like she was an insect they were studying. 3 days ago had been working on a mining ship far from Earth. She was nobody special, just a soldier doing her job, helping protect the workers who dug for rare metals in the asteroid belts. Then a message came. The Galactic Coalition needed a human. They needed her. Nobody told her why. Nobody asked if she wanted to go. They just put her on a fast ship and brought her here, to this station floating in the darkness between stars. Now she understood. Now she wished she did not. The alien who spoke first was tall and thin, with a body like a giant insect. His skin was hard and black like armor made of shadow. His eyes were huge, made of hundreds of tiny parts that reflected space back at her 1,000 times. His name was Ambassador, and he was from a species called the human will participate in the trial of, said. His voice came from a small machine on his chest that turned his clicking sounds into words could understand. She will compete against representatives from 5 other species. Kept her back straight. She kept her face calm. Inside, her heart was beating fast, but she would not let them see her fear. "What is this trial?" she asked. A soft, wet sound came from her left. Turned to see a creature that looked like a pile of clear jelly sitting in a special chair. It had no real shape, just a body that shifted and moved like water. This was and when it spoke, bubbles rose through its form. "The trial of is very old," they said. "It decides which species will get the rights to mine the Helix Nebula. The nebula has metals and minerals worth more money than most planets. Every 10 years, we hold the trial to see who is worthy." "And what does this trial involve?" asked. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Survival. The jungle moon of 7 is one of the most dangerous places in the known galaxy. Everything there wants to kill you. The plants are poison. The animals are hunters. The air itself can make you sick if you breathe it too long." Another alien spoke. This one was huge, covered in thick scales the color of rust. His arms were as big as his entire body, and his face had a mouth full of teeth that could bite through metal. He was from a warrior species called the 93% of all contestants have died in this trial over the last 400 years, said. His voice was deep, like thunder rolling across mountains. "Humans have never competed before. Your species is new to the galaxy, weak, soft. You will not last one day." Looked at him. She was not angry, she was not scared, she was thinking. "What are the rules?" she asked. This time many of the aliens laughed. The sounds were strange, clicking, gurgling, rumbling, but understood what they meant. They thought her question was funny. They thought she was funny. "There are no rules," said. "You will be dropped into the jungle at dawn. You must survive for 3 full days and nights. Then you must reach the extraction point before anyone else. The first one to arrive wins. Their species gets the mining rights. And if nobody survives, then the rights go unclaimed. We wait another 10 years and try again." Leaned forward in his chair. His mandibles, the claw-like parts around his mouth, spread wide. "Your government volunteered you for this, human. They think your species is adaptable. They think you have a chance. We think they are sending you to die so they can say they tried." Thought about this. She thought about Earth, so far away. She thought about her brother, who was probably eating dinner right now in their mother's small apartment. She thought about the mining crews who needed the resources from the Helix Nebula. Without those metals, many human colonies would struggle. People would lose jobs. Families would go hungry. She was not important. She was just one soldier. But what she did here could matter to millions of people. "Who else will be in this trial?" she asked. Gestured with one of his 4 arms. "You have already met of the Empire. He is a veteran of many wars. He has killed hundreds of enemies in combat." Showed his teeth. It was not a smile. There is also of the Dominion, continued, pointing to another insect-like alien who stood in the shadows. This one was smaller than built for speed rather than talking, and Flux of the Collective. The jelly creature rippled, and Sara of the Depths, a thin alien with blue skin and gills on her neck, nodded slowly, and of the clans, a massive creature with tusks and 4 eyes grunted from the corner. 6 competitors, 1 human, 5 aliens, 1 jungle moon that had killed almost everyone who had ever set foot on it. "When do we start?" asked. Studied her with his many eyes. He seemed surprised that she was not crying. He seemed confused that she was not begging to go home. "You will leave in 6 hours," he said. "You will be given a basic survival kit. 1 knife, 1 water purifier, no weapons, no communication devices, no maps." "That does not seem fair," said. "Life is not fair," rumbled. "Death is not fair. The jungle does not care about fair. It only cares about who is strong enough to survive." Nodded slowly. She had grown up in the mountains of Korea, in a small village where winters were cold and food was sometimes hard to find. Her grandmother had taught her many things about survival, about patience, about respect for nature and its dangers. She was not strong-like, she was not fast-like, she was not strange and hard to kill like Flux, but she was human, and humans had survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and the cold emptiness of space. They had done it not by being the strongest or the fastest, but by being clever, by working together, by never, ever giving up. "I will need to prepare," said. "Is there somewhere I can rest?" Waved a hand and a door opened in the wall behind her. "You will be shown to your quarters. I suggest you sleep while you can. Dawn on 7 comes quickly, and after that you will not sleep peacefully again." Turned to leave. She paused at the door and looked back at the assembled aliens. "Thank you for this opportunity," she said. The aliens stared at her. They did not understand. Why would anyone thank them for being sent to die? But understood something they did not. Every challenge was a chance to prove yourself. Every danger was a chance to grow stronger. And every impossible situation was a chance to show the galaxy what humans were truly made of. She walked through the door and did not look back. In her small room, sat on the hard bed and closed her eyes. She thought about her grandmother, who had lived to be 93 years old despite everything life had thrown at her. She thought about the stories her grandmother had told her about the old days, when humans had to share the world with tigers and bears and wolves. "When you meet something stronger than you," her grandmother had said, "do not run, do not fight, show respect. Show that you are not a threat. Sometimes that is enough." "And if it is not enough?" Young had asked. Her grandmother had smiled, her face full of wrinkles and wisdom. "Then you die. But you are going to die anyway. At least this way you die with honor. And sometimes, just sometimes, you find a friend instead of an enemy." Opened her eyes. Outside her window she could see a green moon hanging in the darkness of space. 7. Her destination, her test. She did not know what waited for her in that jungle. She did not know if she would live or die. But she knew one thing for certain. She would not give up without a fight. And if she died, she would die as a human, curious, adaptable, full of hope. Dawn was coming, and with it, the most dangerous trial of her life. The fell through clouds that glowed purple and green. Sat strapped into her seat, watching the other contestants prepare for what was coming. The ship shook hard as it pushed through the thick atmosphere of 7, and the walls groaned like a living thing in pain. The warrior was sharpening his claws against each other. The sound was like metal scraping on metal. His eyes were closed and his breathing was slow and steady. He had done this before, not this exact trial but others like it. He was not afraid. The soldier stood completely still near the door. His body was thin and hard, built for running and hunting. He did not move. He did not speak. He was saving his energy for the jungle below. Flux, they had changed shape. The jelly-like creature was now more solid, more compact. It looked almost like a large ball with no clear head or limbs. This was its survival form, guessed. Harder to hurt, harder to kill. Sara was checking her gills. The thin blue flaps on her neck opened and closed as she tested them. She came from a water world and the humid air of 7 would help her breathe. But she was built for swimming, not running through jungles. Her webbed hands and feet would make walking difficult. The simply sat and stared at nothing. His 4 eyes did not blink. His tusked face showed no emotion. He was like a mountain given life. Big, solid, impossible to move. And then there was small, soft human. She checked her survival kit one more time. The knife was sharp and fit her hand well. The water purifier was a small device that could clean almost any liquid and make it safe to drink. There was also a thin blanket that could keep out cold or heat, a small amount of dried food, and a basic medical kit with bandages and cleaning solution. It was not much, but it was something. "Human," said, opening his eyes, "I want you to know that I respect your courage. When we meet in the jungle, I will make your death quick. This is a gift I do not give to many." Looked at him. "That is very kind of you." Blinked. He was not sure if she was making fun of him or not. "I mean it," he said. "You cannot win this trial. You are too weak, too small, but you are here anyway. That takes courage." "Or stupidity," Sora said, her voice wet and bubbling. "There is sometimes no difference." "Maybe," said, "but I plan to survive, and I plan to win." The aliens looked at each other. Some of them laughed. Some of them just shook their heads. "You do not understand," said. His voice was high and clicking like insects talking. 7 has killed thousands of beings stronger than you. The plants will poison you. The animals will eat you. The ground itself will swallow you whole. You will die screaming and no one will hear you." "Then I will try not to scream," said. Before anyone could respond, red lights began flashing inside the. A loud voice came from speakers in the walls. 30 seconds to deployment. Contestants will be released at random coordinates across the jungle. Distance to extraction point varies by drop location. Good fortune to all. The floor beneath their feet began to open. Saw green below, an endless sea of trees and vines and things she could not name. The jungle of 7 waited for them like a hungry mouth. "May the strongest survive," said. Then the floor disappeared and they all fell. Dropped through the sky like a stone. The wind tore at her clothes and pulled tears from her eyes. She could see the jungle rushing up to meet her, branches reaching like fingers trying to grab her. She hit the first layer of trees hard. Branches broke against her body. Leaves slapped her face. Vines wrapped around her arms and legs, slowing her fall but also cutting into her skin. She bounced off something large and soft that screamed at her, then fell again, crashing through more plants until finally she hit the ground. The impact knocked the breath from her body. She lay on a thick carpet of moss, staring up at the tiny spots of purple sky visible through the canopy high above. Everything hurt. Her ribs, her back, her head. But nothing was broken. She could move her arms and legs. She was alive. Forced herself to sit up. The jungle pressed in around her immediately. It was louder than she had expected. Strange sounds came from every direction. Buzzing, clicking, screaming. Things moved in the shadows at the edge of her vision, but when she turned to look, there was nothing there. The air was thick and wet. It was hard to breathe. Her suit had a small filter over her nose and mouth, and she could hear it working hard to clean the air. Without it, she knew she would already be sick from the spores and poisons floating in the atmosphere. She stood up slowly, testing her balance. The gravity here was a little stronger than on Earth. Not much, but enough to make her feel heavy and tired. "Okay," she whispered to herself. "First things first. Water, shelter, do not die." She took out her knife and held it ready. Then she picked a direction and started walking. The jungle did not want her there. That became clear very quickly. Vines reached for her ankles, trying to trip her. Flowers turned to watch her pass. their petals spreading to reveal mouths full of tiny teeth. Roots shifted under her feet, making every step uncertain. After an hour of walking, found a small stream. The water looked clear, but she knew better than to trust it. She used her purifier to fill her water container, watching the device glow green to show the water was now safe. She drank deeply. The water was cool and tasted strange, but it gave her strength. A sound made her freeze. Something was moving through the bushes nearby, something big. Crouched low and stayed very still. Her grandmother had taught her this. When you do not know what is hunting you, do not run. Do not make noise, be invisible. The bushes parted and saw her first predator. It was like nothing she had ever seen. The creature had 6 legs and a body covered in thick black fur. Its head was flat and wide, with no eyes that could see. Instead, it had hundreds of small holes along its face, and she could hear air whistling through them. It was smelling for her, hunting her. The creature turned its head back and forth, sniffing the air. It was only 10 meters away. If it found her, she would not be able to outrun it. She would have to fight. But did not move. She controlled her breathing. She made herself small and quiet. She became part of the jungle. Long seconds passed. The creature sniffed again, then made a low, growling sound. It did not seem satisfied, but it also did not seem certain where she was. After another moment, it turned and walked away, disappearing into the green darkness. Let out a slow breath. Her hands were shaking, but she was alive. She continued moving, more careful now. She needed to find shelter before night came. She did not know what the darkness would bring on this moon, but she was certain it would be worse than the day. An hour later, she found something that made her stop. Tracks in the soft ground, footprints that were not made by any animal. The soldier had passed this way. She could tell by the shape of the prints, the long, thin marks made by his many legs. She followed the tracks, curious. Maybe she could learn something useful from seeing where he went. Maybe she could find resources he had missed. She found him 20 minutes later. Or what was left of him. Lay beside a fallen tree, his hard body cracked open like an egg. His insides were gone, eaten or taken by something. His many eyes stared at nothing, already going dull and cloudy. Felt sick, but she did not look away. She could not afford to be weak. Not here, not now. She knelt beside his body and searched for anything useful. She found an extra water container strapped to his leg. She found some kind of food paste in a pouch on his chest. She also found a small device she did not recognize, covered in buttons and lights. She took everything, did not need it anymore. "I am sorry," she whispered to his body. "I hope you find peace." Then she stood and walked away, leaving the dead alien behind. Whatever had killed was still out there. It was fast, it was strong, and it was hungry. Gripped her knife and kept moving. The sun was starting to go down, painting the jungle in shadows of purple and black. She needed shelter. She needed safety. She needed to survive until dawn. The night on 7 was not completely dark. The plants glowed with soft blue and green light, making the jungle look like something from a dream. But it was not a good dream. It was the kind of dream where monsters hid in every shadow and death waited around every corner. Had found shelter in the hollow of a giant fallen tree. The space was small, but it kept her hidden from the things that hunted in the darkness. She could hear them moving outside. Heavy footsteps, wet breathing, strange calls that sounded almost like speech. She did not sleep. She could not. Every sound made her heart beat faster. Every shadow made her grip her knife. When dawn finally came, purple light creeping through the gaps in her shelter felt like she had aged 10 years in one night. Her body was exhausted, but her mind was sharp. She was still alive. That was what mattered. She ate some of the food paste she had taken from. It tasted like nothing, but it filled her stomach and gave her energy. She drank water from her container. Then she left her shelter and continued moving. The jungle was different in the morning light. The glowing plants had gone dark, and now everything was shades of green and brown and purple. Birds that were not really birds flew overhead, their wings making sounds like paper tearing. Small creatures watched her from the branches above, their eyes too large for their heads. Walked for 2 hours before she found the wall of vines. It rose up in front of her like a curtain, stretching high into the canopy above. The vines pulsed with faint blue light, and she could feel a strange warmth coming from beyond them. Something was back there, something important. Every instinct told her to walk away, to find another path, to stay safe. But was curious. Humans were always curious. It was their greatest strength and their greatest weakness. She pushed through the vines. The clearing beyond was like nothing she had seen before. In the center stood a single tree, massive and ancient. Its trunk was wider than a house, and its bark swirled with patterns that seemed to move when she looked at them. The tree glowed with soft golden light, and the air around it was warm and sweet. And wrapped around the trunk of the tree, looking directly at her, was the most beautiful and terrifying creature had ever seen. The serpent was huge, 20 meters long, maybe more. Its body was thick with muscle, covered in scales that shifted between black and deep purple. Along its spine grew a row of crystal spines that caught the light and scattered it into rainbows. Its head was flat and wide, crowned with delicate feathers that moved like they were underwater. But it was the eyes that held frozen. Golden eyes, bright as suns, filled with an intelligence that made her stomach clench with fear. This was a crowned serpent. She remembered seeing pictures in her briefing files. The most venomous creature on 7. One bite could kill in seconds. They were fast, aggressive, and utterly without mercy. She should run. She should turn and crash back through the vines and run as fast as she could. But her legs would not move, and deep down she knew it would not matter anyway. The serpent was faster than her. If it wanted her dead, she was already dead. The serpent opened its mouth. Fangs as long as her forearm dripped with venom that smoked where it hit the ground. A sound came from deep in its throat, like wind blowing through crystal caves, beautiful and terrible. Then it struck. Did not run. She did not fight. She did not scream. She dropped to her knees, lowered her head, and held perfectly still. The serpent's strike stopped centimeters from her face. She could feel the heat of its breath on her skin. She could smell the chemical burn of its venom. Death hovered in front of her, waiting. But it did not come. Long seconds passed, kept her head down, her body as small and still as she could make it. She remembered her grandmother's words. When you meet something stronger than you, show respect. Show that you are not a threat. The serpent made that crystal sound again, but softer this time, almost questioning. Slowly, very slowly, raised one hand. Her palm was open, her fingers spread. A gesture of peace, of surrender, of trust. The serpent's head tilted. Its golden eyes studied her with an intelligence that made her realize something important. This was not a mindless monster. This was a thinking being. It was making a decision about her. And then, impossibly, the serpent pressed its snout against her palm. The scales were warm and smooth. She could feel the creature's breath, slow and steady. She could feel its heartbeat through the connection of their touch. The serpent made a low rumbling sound, almost like a cat purring. Its feathered crown brushed against her arm as it pressed closer, as if testing her. Stayed very still. Tears were running down her face, but she did not wipe them away. She did not know if they were tears of fear or joy or something she could not name. "Hello," she whispered. "I am not going to hurt you, I promise." The serpent pulled back slightly and looked at her again. Its eyes seemed to be searching for something in her face. Then it made a different sound, higher and more complex. From behind the great tree came more sounds, smaller, softer, chirping. Understood then. There were eggs behind the tree. This serpent was a mother protecting her children. She had not attacked to hunt. She had attacked because she thought was a threat to her bobbies. Oh, breathed, I understand now. You are just protecting them like any mother would." The serpent seemed to relax. Its coils loosened around the tree trunk. Its feathered crown settled down flat against its head. Did not move. She did not want to break whatever fragile trust had formed between them. Minutes passed. The serpent watched her. She watched the serpent. The jungle continued its endless noise around them, but in this clearing there was a strange kind of peace. Finally, the serpent moved. It slid down from the tree trunk, its massive body flowing like water over the ground. It circled once, twice, its scales brushing against her arms and legs, testing her, learning her. Then it laid its head in her lap. Its breath caught in her throat. She did not know what to do. This was not supposed to happen. Crowned serpents were killers. They did not let strange creatures touch them. They did not rest their heads on anyone's lap. But here she was, a small human woman, sitting in a clearing on a death world, with the most venomous creature on the moon lying across her legs like a pet. Carefully, gently, raised her hand and touched the serpent's head. She stroked the feathered crown, feeling the soft texture under her fingers. The serpent made that purring sound again, and its golden eyes slowly closed. "I do not believe this," whispered. "What are you doing? Why are you not killing me?" But even as she asked the questions, she knew the answers. She had shown submission. She had shown respect. She had made herself small and harmless, and the serpent had recognized that she was not a threat. On Earth, humans had learned to live with dangerous animals, dogs that could bite, horses that could kick, hawks that could tear flesh. They had done it by understanding the animals, by reading their behavior, by building trust. This was the same thing, different world, different creature, same connection. Sat in that clearing for a long time, stroking the serpent's head and thinking about what this meant. She could not stay here forever. She had to reach the extraction point. She had to survive. But maybe she did not have to do it alone. "I am going to call you," she said softly. "It means flower in my language, because you are beautiful even though you are dangerous." The serpent, now called, opened one golden eye and looked at her. Then it closed again, and that purring rumble continued. Smiled. For the first time since she had arrived on this terrible moon, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. The sound of something crashing through the jungle made look up. His head rose from her lap, golden eyes suddenly sharp and focused. The great serpent's body coiled tight, ready to strike. "Wait," whispered. "Let me see who it is first." She did not know if understood her words, but the serpent seemed to understand her tone. It stayed ready but did not move. The vines at the edge of the clearing parted and burst through. The warrior was covered in cuts and scratches. His scales were dull with dried blood, and one of his arms hung at a bad angle. But he was alive, and his eyes were full of fire. Then he saw. He stopped so fast he almost fell over. "What?" breathed his voice, barely a whisper. "Have you done?" Looked at him calmly. Her hand was still resting on his head, and she could feel the serpent's muscles tense under her palm. "I made a friend," she said. Stared at her. His mouth opened and closed several times, but no words came out. His eyes moved from to and back again, like he could not believe what he was seeing. "That is a crowned serpent," he finally said. "They are the most dangerous creatures on this moon. They have killed entire survey teams. They do not make friends. They do not let anyone touch them. They kill everything." She was protecting her eggs, said. "There are bobbies behind the tree. When I showed her I was not a threat, she accepted me." "Accepted you?" shook his head. "Humans are insane. You are all insane." Made a low rumbling sound and took a step back. His claws extended, ready to fight. "Do not move suddenly," warned him. "She does not like that. She thinks you might be a threat." "I'm a threat. I'm a warrior. I have killed." "I know," interrupted. "You have killed hundreds of enemies, but right now that does not matter. Right now you are injured and alone, and there is a creature in front of you that could kill you before you could raise your claws. So please be calm. Sit down. Let her see that you are not dangerous. Stared at her for a long moment. Pride and fear fought in his eyes. He was a warrior. He did not show weakness. He did not submit. But he was also smart, and he could see that was right. Slowly, carefully, lowered himself to the ground. He kept his claws retracted. He kept his eyes down. It was the hardest thing he had ever done. Watched him closely. Her tongue flickered out, tasting the air, reading him. She smells fear on you, said, and aggression, but she can also tell that you are not attacking. That is good. How do you know what she smells? Asked. I do not know exactly, I just feel it, shrugged. Humans are good at reading animals. We have been doing it for thousands of years. Minutes passed, continued to watch, but slowly her body relaxed. The tension in her coils eased. She was accepting him too. I cannot believe this, said quietly. In 400 years of trials, no one has ever done what you have done. Crowned serpents are monsters. Everyone knows this. Everyone is wrong, said. They are intelligent, they are social. They communicate with body language and sounds and smells. When they kill, it is because they are scared, because they are protecting something, like any mother would. She looked at the great tree and followed her gaze. Behind the trunk, barely visible in the shadows, were 3 large eggs. They glowed with soft golden light, the same color as eyes. She is a mother, said. Understanding filled his voice. Yes, and she was alone protecting her bobbies when I came through those vines. She thought I was going to hurt them. She was ready to kill me. But when I showed her I was not a threat, everything changed. Was quiet for a long time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, more thoughtful. On we have creatures called. They are large predators with sharp claws and strong jaws. They kill many of our young warriors in their training hunts. He paused. But there is a story, a very old story about a warrior who did not kill her. Instead, he showed it mercy. That became his companion. They fought side by side for many years. What happened to them? Asked. They died together defending our from invaders. They are legends now, heroes, looked at with new eyes. I always thought the story was made up, a fairy tale for children, but now I wonder if it was true. Smiled. Maybe it was. Maybe understanding between different creatures is older than we think. Made her crystal wind sound, and from behind the tree came answering chirps. The eggs were making noise. Something was happening. The bobbies said, I think they are hatching. She stood up carefully and moved with her, staying close. Together they walked around the great tree to where the eggs lay in their nest of soft moss and leaves. One of the eggs was cracking. A small snout pushed through the shell, followed by 2 golden eyes. The baby serpent was tiny, no bigger than its arm, but it was already beautiful. Its scales were bright purple, and its crystal spines caught the light like diamonds. Made a soft sound, and the baby chirped in response. It struggled free from its egg and slithered toward its mother, who bent down to touch it gently with her snout. Came to stand beside. He watched the baby serpent with an expression she had never seen on it before. Wonder. It is so small, he said, so fragile. Everything is fragile when it is young, said. That is why mothers protect them so fiercely. The other 2 eggs began to crack. Soon there were 3 baby serpents, all chirping and climbing over each other and their mother. Watched them with obvious love, her great body curling around them protectively. What are we going to do? Asked. The trial is still happening. The extraction point is still waiting. We cannot stay here forever. Thought about this. She thought about the mining rights and the people depending on her. She thought about the coalition and their rules. She thought about what it would mean to leave and her bobbies behind. Maybe there is another way, she said slowly. A way to win the trial that nobody has ever tried before. What do you mean? They said there are no rules. Survive for 3 days. Reach the extraction point. But they did not say we had to reach it alone. Looked at the baby serpents, at the great tree with its glowing bark. What if we bring them with us? What if we show the coalition something they have never seen before? Stared at her. You want to bring a crowned serpent to the extraction point. They will think we have gone mad. Maybe, or maybe they will see something important. Proof that humans do not just survive. We connect. We make friends with things that should be our enemies. We find peace where everyone else finds only death. Was quiet for a long time. His pride fought with something new growing inside him, something that felt like hope. The other contestants, he said, they will reach the extraction point before us if we stay here. Maybe, but this is not just about winning anymore. This is about showing the galaxy what is possible, about proving that there is more than one way to be strong. Raised her great head and looked at. Her golden eyes held understanding, trust, and something that might have been gratitude. She had been alone for so long, protecting her bobbies against a jungle full of dangers. Now she had allies, friends. Reached out his hand toward. His claws were still retracted, his palm open, just like had shown him. Studied him for a moment. Then slowly she pressed her snout against his palm. Made a sound that was almost a laugh. I am going to be a legend, he said, or a fool, I am not sure which. Why not both? Asked. The baby serpents chirped and made her crystal wind call. The jungle around them seemed to quiet, as if even the predators knew that something important was happening here. We should rest tonight, said. The bobbies are too young to travel now. Tomorrow we will start moving toward the extraction point. Together. Nodded. He sat down against the great tree, his injured arm cradled against his chest. For the first time since the trial began, he did not look like a warrior ready for battle. He looked like someone who had found something worth more than victory. Sat beside, watching the baby serpents explore their new world. They were curious about everything, sniffing at leaves and rocks and their mother's coils. One of them crawled up's arm and wrapped itself around her wrist like a bracelet. She laughed. It was the first time she had laughed since leaving her ship. Hello, little one, she said. Are you coming with me? The baby serpent chirped and settled against her skin, warm and trusting. Night was falling again on 7, but this time was not afraid of the darkness. She had friends now. She had family. And tomorrow, they would show the galaxy what that meant. The extraction point sat on top of a bare ridge, the only place on 7 where the jungle did not grow. From above, it looked like a wound in the green flesh of the moon, brown rock exposed to the purple sky. The coalition observation team had been watching since dawn. Their sensors showed movement approaching from the west. They expected to see one survivor, maybe two if luck had been kind. They expected injuries, trauma, the haunted eyes of someone who had seen too much death. They did not expect what they saw. Two figures emerged from the tree line. One was human, small and dirty but walking with strength. The other was, his scales scratched and his arm wrapped in bandages made from vines, but his head held high. And behind them, flowing over the rocks like a river of living shadow, came the crowned serpent. Ambassador stood up so fast he knocked over his chair. His mandibles clicked wildly as he tried to find words. This is impossible, he said. The serpent should have killed them. It should not be following them. It should not be. The serpent rose to her full height, 20 meters of muscle and scale and crystal. She spread the fins along her spine, catching the morning light and scattering it into rainbows. Her call rang out across the ridge, not threatening but triumphant, announcing. On her back, held in harnesses woven from jungle vines, rode 3 baby serpents. They chirped and trilled, their tiny bodies gleaming in the sun. The delegate quivered. What have they done? What is this? Walked forward until she stood before the assembled aliens. Her clothes were torn. Her skin was cut and bruised. But her eyes were bright with something that made even the hardened soldiers of the observation team step back. We are here to claim victory, she said, for humanity and the Empire together. The chamber erupted in noise. clicking, gurgling, roaring. The delegates could not believe what they were seeing. "This is not allowed," they said. "You cannot share victory. You cannot bring native creatures to the extraction point. The rules." "There are no rules," interrupted. His voice was stronger now, filled with confidence. "We survived for 3 days. We reached the extraction point. The human found a way to do both while making an ally of this world's most deadly predator. If the Coalition cannot accept this, then maybe the Coalition needs to change its rules." Moved forward until her great head was level with Ambassador. Her golden eyes studied him with ancient intelligence. He could see himself reflected in those eyes, small and fragile, and suddenly very aware of how easy it would be for her to kill him. Hal managed to ask. His voice was barely a whisper. "How did you do this?" Thought about the question. She thought about her grandmother, about the mountains of her childhood, about every story she had ever heard of humans, and the wild things they had learned to live beside. "Because that is what humans do," she said. "We are not the strongest, we are not the fastest, we are not the most dangerous, but we are stubborn, we are curious, and somewhere deep in our blood we remember that we did not survive on Earth alone, we made friends." She reached up and touched the scales, and the great serpent made a soft sound of contentment. "Dogs," continued, "cats, horses, hawks, wolves, bears. We found the dangerous things and figured out how to make them family. The galaxy looks at this moon and sees a death trap, a test of strength, a place that kills." She smiled. "I looked at it and saw a mother protecting her children, and I thought that is something I understand, that is something I can work with." The delegates were silent now. Even the representative, who had barely moved during the entire trial, leaned forward with interest. "The mining rights," said slowly. "You claim them for humanity and the—" "No," said. "I claim them on behalf of Seven itself." Gasps filled the chamber. "Any mining will be done carefully," continued. "The jungle will be protected. The creatures who live here will be respected. The crowned serpents are intelligent. They deserve a voice in what happens to their world." "You cannot speak for animals," they said. "They are beasts. They do not understand politics or treaties or—" Turned her head and fixed them with a stare that made the jelly creature shrink back in its container. A low rumble came from her throat, and the message was clear. She understood more than they thought. "She followed me here," said. "She let me carry her children. She understood what this moment meant. She is not a beast. She is a person just different from us." "This has never been done," said. "In 400 years of trials no one has ever—" "I know," interrupted. "That is why it matters. Humans are new to the galaxy. You do not know what we can do yet. Now you have seen something. We do not just survive. We do not just conquer. We connect." Stepped forward to stand beside her. His presence was powerful, his voice strong. "I have been a warrior my whole life," he said. "I have killed many enemies. I thought that was strength. But this human showed me something different. True strength is not destroying your enemies. True strength is turning enemies into friends." The baby serpents chirped from their harnesses, and one of them crawled down side and onto shoulder. It wrapped itself around her neck like a living necklace, its tiny tongue flickering against her cheek. "If the Coalition does not accept this," said, "they can run the trial again. But they should know that next time it will not be just the jungle they face." Raised her head and called out again, and from the tree line below answering calls rose, dozens of them. The jungle had been watching, waiting, deciding. Looked at the human woman. Small, soft, unremarkable by galactic standards. And yet here she stood, with the most dangerous creature on the moon as her friend, dictating terms to the Coalition like she was the one in power. He felt something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. Not of her body, not of her weapons, fear of what she represented, what humanity represented. A species that looked at monsters and saw friends. That faced death and offered kindness. That survived not by being strongest but by understanding. The coalition, said slowly, will need to discuss this. It may take time. That is fine, said. We will wait. Needs to feed her bobbies anyway. A strange sound came from. It took a moment to realize he was laughing. What happens now? He asked her quietly. Looked out at the jungle, at the serpents emerging from the trees, at the new day breaking over a world that had changed forever. Now we introduce the galaxy to our new neighbors, she said, and we show them what humans really are. Rumbled her approval, and the baby serpent on shoulder chirped happily. Somewhere in the depths of the coalition's records, a new file was being created, a new category, a new warning for any species that might encounter humanity in the future. Do not assume they are harmless. Do not assume they will fight. Do not assume anything. Because humans do not conquer, they befriend. And that is far more terrifying. Stood on the ridge as the sun rose higher, her hand resting on scales, her friend beside her, her new family around her. The trial had been meant to test her strength. Instead, it had shown her heart. And the galaxy would never be the same.